I should probably wait till it actually starts recording. Yeah, there we go. Gave me loads of information there when we had our initial chat. So let me just bring it up. You feel like you're the slowest swimmer in the club. I'm sure you're not. 1 week mostly swimming with the Tri Club, but don't get that consistent every single week. Haven't had much instruction underneath the water. You feel like you get out of breath versus the speed that you're going. So you're more out of breath than you should be at the speed that you're going. But when you do try and speed up, you get more out of breath and less speed. That sound about right? Swimming at around 2 minutes per 100 up to around 200 meters, and around 2 minutes 30 per 100 if you're doing anything over, say, 1500 meters. Okay, so in the world of Swim Smooth, we came up with some swim types, which they're a little bit stereotypy, if I'm honest. But what they do is help establish whereabouts you are on the technique spectrum and helps you as a swimmer carve a path forward in the technique. Also helps me as a coach to establish a clean progression of coaching. So right at the beginning of the spectrum, you have bambinos. I really don't think you're a bambino. Bambinos are new and nervous swimmers. So nervous doesn't necessarily mean nervous of the water. It means nervous of technique. I just don't know what I'm doing. Now, you clearly have had some instruction. I think generally you are propelling and you understand the basics of front crawl. So I don't think you're a bambino. Then we have our Arnies and our Arnettes. Power. Jeremy Clarkson's of the swimming world. Power, but no speed. So those are the people that you will see spinning their arms through the water and just losing catch and just not traveling anywhere. Again, I don't think you're an Arnie, but there are some traits of Arnie within you. Then we have kicktastics. Now, what's interesting with you is that you sit somewhere between kicktastic and overglider. So kicktastic are those that are trying to power their stroke with their legs, getting very out of breath. Your big muscles are here. So when you go aerobic, all the oxygen that you take on is being spent trying to power these rather than power the front. You can also tell that you're a little bit kicktastic because your legs are moving twice the speed of your arms. And that leaves a little bit of an imbalance going through the body. Just it's all out of sync. The other one is a little bit of overgliding to you. And I completely understand how people get to this realm and make that facial expression because you've been told to lengthen it and you don't feel like you're gliding. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're graceful and gliding through the water. It means there's a stop at the front here. So classic things we see with kicktastics, they don't like using leg buoys. I imagine you're the opposite, that you probably quite like using a leg buoy.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't make a massive difference, but yeah, I'm quite happy with it, yes.
Okay. But with overgliders, we do tend to see some elbow and shoulder issues where the arm has to brace. And we also see very classic, I'm trying to go faster and I'm actually not getting any faster at all. Now, that's usually because that the arms there's a dead spot in the stroke. So even if you try and speed up, that dead spot remains where it pushes down or it stays still while the body is still traveling forward. So gliding by its very nature is a separation of acceleration. You're de-accelerating with every stroke. So the power it then takes to bring yourself out of de-acceleration back into acceleration is quite cardio heavy. But if you've got quite a big gap between de-acceleration and acceleration, that's what we call a dead spot. Slowing. And then there's that initial speeding. Whereas we want a continuous speed. Okay, yeah. Make sense?
Yes.
Let's have a look at the stroke so explain why I've come to that conclusion. So the first angle we're going to take a look at is side on over the water. Here's where we look at general body position. Let's bring it up a little bit. We're looking at general body position, head position, arm recovery, hand entry. Okay, so first breath up, we're looking somewhere towards Venus to get a breath in, where we should be a little bit more stretched with the front part of our head leaning on the top of our arm to take a breath in. Now, this tells me that the body position may be a little bit lower underneath the water, and I'll look at that in a second. Okay, it's all quite stiff. It's almost like I want to give you a shake. It's very precise. Okay, so elbow up first, which is absolutely right. Now, when you come to recover your arms when you're not breathing, so let me start that again. This is correct. Elbow comes up And then your elbow begins to point backwards. And you're going to see, actually, I'm going to show you straight away because that's not very clear here on this angle. Okay. Come on, computer, been very slow. Okay, so that elbow points backwards and it continues to sort of, when you swim here, that elbow continues to point backwards where it should be pointing out to the side and then forwards. Now, when the elbow points in the backwards position, the hand gets in front of the shoulder and most of it is being powered through the rotator cuff and bicep, whereas a recovery part of the stroke should be controlled much more by the lat muscles, what are those ones called? Intercostals, as well as the deltoids, bicep and tricep. It's quite a big force. Why? Because when you come back into the water, you're then in the strongest position to get the most amount of power underneath the water. When we bring the elbow back and we come over, we call a rotary style stroke, it pushes the body low and can stop rotation through the hip. So we end up with this sort of broken position here. And if you have a broken position here, you end up with a crossover through the water. So again, now you're looking at the shoulder coming all the way back, elbow cutting across the body, hand getting in front of the shoulder, and then coming forwards, and it creates a banana shape. That's all because of the way that you recover over the water. If you don't recover the arm properly, the hips cannot work properly. And if the hips don't work properly, you end up with lateral deviation, the body twisting. Right, let's go back here. So, I mean, it's going to feel a little bit like I'm telling you off, but I promise I will bring it back at the end to seeing a few things. Because most of these things are all linked together.
Is it helpful if I ask questions as we go along?
Or yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to quite take it all in.
Yes.
So you're sort of saying my trunk is kind of swaying too much?
Lateral deviation is when you snake through the water. And if you snake through the water, that's because you're putting rotation through the shoulders and not through the hips. Swimming is like tennis. When you serve a ball in tennis, it's the pivot through the hips that allows the power transfer all the way through the body.
I mean, I'm happy that you're saying that I need to use the big muscles more. I'm sort of surprised that you need the big muscles to go forwards. I thought you just needed them to come back.
No, the reason that you want them to come over the water is so that they're set up ready to be used under the water. So you're not using power to lift over the water, but you are setting up the right muscles to be able to access power under the water. Because at the moment, where this elbow comes back and you're not using your rotator, you're nearly 100% using shoulder. And that's much, much weaker. So you're using shoulders to rotate as well as go forwards, as well as power.
Yeah. Okay. Sort of understanding. Maybe you carry on.
What we'll do once I've done this, I'm going to get the mat out and I'm going to move your body in such a way that you can understand it.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right. So otherwise, above this, what we're very much looking at is how you recover. And as I say, it's the purpose to requirements, right? How you set up isn't creating any power or propulsion, but it does set you up to getting power under the water. Yep, so that's why we correct that. You come into the water fine. I've got nothing to correct there. In fact, that breath was a little bit better than the first one you did. Not much to see. So we're going to go under the water, front on. So here we're looking at breathing, we're looking at catch, pull, and the propulsive phase. So coming into the water here, the first thing I notice is that your palm and fingers are in a sort of inclined position. So you're sort of coming into the water almost like this. And then you're going to have frontal resistance. Yes, it's can only be a little bit, but it all helps. So we want to change the angle of how you're coming into the water with your middle finger lower than your wrist and your elbow higher than your wrist. So you're sort of coming into the water until your shoulder becomes the highest point. Now, here's where I said about the dead spot. So right now, you've got your elbow out to the side, you've got your hand up. You then press downwards. Now you're in the propulsive phase. So there's just about a foot and a half of water there where you're falling and there's no propulsion at all. You can tell your right side dominant because that's a much better catch and pull position than your left. That's good. Okay. Got a nice high elbow, good forearm. I'd like to see that elbow stay out just a little bit longer. So your hand gets a little bit closer towards underneath your elbow. Then the whole arm moves back. That's me being incredibly picky. It's just that we end up with quite a big gap here and we want to stay close towards the body. Like, have you ever done canoeing or paddleboarding?
Yeah, I used to do kayaking.
Kayaking, right? If you paddle out here, the paddle and the boat doesn't move as fast as if you did it close towards the boat.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's hydrodynamics. So the reason that is happening is because of rotation. You're completely flat in the water right now. Mm-hmm. And we need to be rotated around 45 degrees, at which point that hand would have gone back in a straight line.
So rotated, which way? Rotated this way. Yeah.
Okay, and again, on your left, a little bit better with the hand entry, pushing down again. And that's where you begin the propulsive phase. Okay, so now you can see you are rotated. You're taking a breath in. The elbow, this is a really difficult one for me to explain, but I'll do my best. So where I said about on the other side that I'd like to see your elbow stay out a little bit longer before it pulls in, your left-hand side does it much earlier. So you're sweeping down and then bringing your elbow in. So you're almost rowing through the water. Okay, here it comes, here. That elbow comes in and then up.
So, and it should be...
Keep the elbow out.
And, okay, but you said... But how can you have the elbow out and also have your propulsion next to the side of your body?
Because you'd be rotated. So where you would be at the moment, you were flat, you were rotated. You brought your elbow out, now you're flat and your elbow has come in like this. So you're mostly using fulcrum forearm. Now bring my elbow out and my hip turns with my stroke. Do you see a difference?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so you were doing that, but then you went flat.
Yeah.
And you pulled in this way.
Okay. Right.
Okay. This will make sense in a minute. Actually, I'm going to take that in the front bit. So we have to work on catch. We want to get into the water downwards and forwards. I understand if I start my catch up here, I'm going to get much more distance per stroke. That is what a lot of coaches will tell you, but it's not true. Unless you are Sun Yang, who is a Chinese swimmer with the widest shoulders I've ever seen in my life, he starts his catch right on top of the water and his elbow actually comes out of the water to push the water back. Incredible flexion, hypermobility. Great for him, happy for him. We don't normally get that. So it's unlikely you would be able to get power from all the way up here. Most of us get power when the shoulder is higher than the elbow, wrist and fingertips because you're accessing Latin intercostals, also down into glutes and even hamstrings. It's huge force. So by going into the water lower, you're already in the pre-catch setup. So I've already got a little bit of force on the water. Access to power and then pull.
So if this is the surface of the water, how deep are you aiming to have?
I need to have a little look because it's different for everybody, but general rule of thumb is about there. It's less than a foot or about a foot.
Yeah, okay. But where do you actually enter the water? Because, one of the ambiguous things is that there's people make you do these drills, like sort of finger drag along the top and and reaching as catch up, and kind of, it makes me think that and high elbow, and it kind of also says you're meant to reach forward before you put your hand into the water at all at the end of the stroke. But then you're actually saying, well, I need to go deeper under the water. And so that's basically going to mean you have to enter the water sooner.
Not necessarily.
To get there.
Those drills, finger drag drills, high elbow drills, aren't actually about where you put your hand in the water. What they're actually designed to do is get you to relax the arm so that you're softer coming into the water, not where the hand goes in. And that's exactly what I was going to go with here. You don't need to enter all the way up here to come down. If I was really soft, I can still enter here. My shoulder is still higher than my elbow, wrist, and fingertips. So I could even enter here and I'm still shoulder, elbow, fingertips. It doesn't matter. It's what's comfortable for you.
Okay. All right. Fine. But I need to go a bit deeper in the water with my hands.
Yes, you do. Yes. Okay. So that you stop this. This is resistance on the water that is a waste of time and energy and efficiency, because that's where you really started pulling the water. Now you'll be going in and straight into that position.
Okay.
Okay. I was just looking at your breathing there. So it looks quite steady, trickle breathing through the water. Good. That looks good to me. So a lot of problems with sinking can happen if you're not breathing out correctly. So again, this is another controversial subject in the world of swimming. Breath hold versus breath bubbles. I'm of the opinion if you breathe out into the water steadily, you take a much better breath in, and that is much better for an aerobic swimmer. Anaerobic swimmers, your sprinters, hold their breath because they're not powering through oxygen. It's lactate only.
Okay.
But we are not them. All right, let's go side on. Now, side on, we're going to take a look at, again, overall body position, a little bit of rotation, and that catch. Here's where we begin to see that the legs are moving out of sync with the arms. Okay. So this is good. Shoulder higher than the elbow, but then we come up in the other direction. So a little change there. This is fine, but just bring this bit down. It's not a huge difference.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so for this one, again, that's fine. Just a little change. As you see, if you were to enter and get into this position early, you pretty much already started your propulsion. Does that make sense? Yeah. Quite a lot of knee bend. And what we call a whip kick. So a whip kick is you're giving one big kick harder than the rest. I think left to your own devices, you would end up as a full over glider. So we've got a few things that are leading you towards an over glider anyway, with this sort of extra long reach, and there is a little bit of a dead spot. But the reason you give a big knee kick is that somewhere in your body you're feeling a de-acceleration, and that kick is helping push you forwards again, where it's losing it at the front. So it's happening more when you finish your left-hand side and you go into your right-hand side is where you give a big kick.
I think I'm kicking to try and restore my balance, to sort of compensate for the breathing rotation or something.
And that is what your legs are meant to be used for. And there is certainly, which I'm going to see from the top angle again, you are using your feet as rudders. and flicking the water back in again. But you also have a whip kick, and it's always on the right-hand side to help the right-hand side move through a dead spot. Again, let's bring that back, show you again.
Does it look as if my bum is sinking low and then my sort of feet are going higher,
Like
which makes me bend my
banana.
knees more? That if my
No.
bum was floating higher, would my legs be straighter?
It's very rare to find a swimmer sat right on top of the water. And in fact, if you were to look at Michael Phelps, say, there is always an incline from head down to feet. So yeah, he would be a little bit higher in the water, but he would probably be in that position. There is always an incline because you have a chest full of air. So no, this is happening purely because on this right-hand side, I'm going to stop it here. You've got your left-hand side finishing the stroke. Okay, so that left-hand side, there's no propulsion. Now there's nothing until you start the kick and then pull the hand back again. That is a dead spot. All right, one more time. The left-hand side, so the other side. God, this computer's being slow today.
So you're saying that there's meant to be continuous propulsion all the time. There's not meant to be a gap. You know, I thought with these exercises that are about, you know, aiming for distance per stroke and stuff, that you have a bit of power and then you have
a glide,
and then you have a bit more power. No, okay.
There is no glide in any four of the strokes, even breaststroke. So this is what Adam Peaty changed about breaststroke, because traditionally breaststroke, we have a glide forwards. What Adam Peaty did was a continuous stroke, and he completely blew away breaststroke because, as I said, gliding by its very nature is a separation of propulsion. It's a deacceleration. You don't want that. All right, so left-hand side propelling.
So basically you're saying that if the feet aren't really doing any propelling, then basically you're meant to be starting the power in one arm when the other arm is just finishing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, you would be putting in, let me get to the next one because it's called front quadrant, but I need to explain that as we go. Right, so your left-hand side, that's in the weakest part of propulsion is the back end of the stroke anyway. It has finished. Now your right-hand side has stopped. It's not doing anything at all. So that leg gives a whip kick to help pull you through deacceleration until you get more acceleration here. Now your left-hand side's a little bit better there. It already started. But your right-hand side stopped. Okay, and then it goes again. Now, going back to this and what you were saying, that using you as being used as rudders. Yes, you're right. You are using your legs as rudders, but they should be used as balance, not rudders. Rotation should come through the hips, not through the legs or through the shoulders. And yes, there is a little bit of knee bend kick to help with lift as well. You are a little bit low, but it's not enough for me to call that a fault. You're fine.
Okay, so
your legs right now it's mostly a whip kick. It's helping you get through a dead spot in your stroke. You have quite a big knee bend kick because it's giving you a little bit of lift as well.
Yeah.
But your incline is not severe. I think if we make other advancements in your stroke, your body position will come up naturally. I don't need you to go away and worry about your body position.
Okay.
Okay. Last bit, we're going to look above the water and we're going to talk about stroke timing as well as rotation. Now, you are a shoulder leg swimmer, which is quite a lot of men. Right now, your hip has turned a little bit, but your shoulder comes up further and earlier than your hip.
So I need to rotate the hips more, but not the shoulders anymore.
Absolutely. And I'll show you how to do that. So again, your shoulders pulled all the way back, but your hip is down. That leaves you feeling imbalanced, and it creates a wiggle like a articulated lorry through the water, and that's what causes this. And you'll be able to, even if you're not aware of it, your body is aware of it. And so it gives a little outward kick here to help rudder you back into the middle again. Stroke timing. It's not as simple as just move your arms quicker. So I use this term front quadrant timing. If I was to split you into 4, you want to have one hand underneath the water in this front quadrant and one hand over the top of the water in this front quadrant. So you use the term catch up. Catch up is an extreme version because it's trying to get you to swim in that front quadrant. At the moment, you are opposites. Okay, so at the moment you're opposites, but we want to be here. So by the time this hand has finished, this hand's already ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what keeps the propulsion steady.
So that sort of means don't go too far back with your stroke, with your hands.
No, it doesn't. So do you mean don't go as far back as in push the water back here?
Yeah, because they go back at some point.
No, we just need to change the rhythm of what you're doing. Because the rhythm right now is in opposites, okay? But we want the rhythm to be closer together. So that hand still goes all the way back, but it's like a gallop rather than a split. Boom, 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 boom. Again, I will go through the map with you.
Okay.
But yeah, you don't want to have an opposite because an opposite splits the body apart and you lose a bit of propulsion. Now you're almost a front quadrant there. Look, you've got one hand underneath the water in the front and one hand going into the water at the front. Just cross. On this side, that hand's just gone in, that hand's gone past. So yeah, you are a back quadrant swimmer. Opposites. Okay. The biggest thing holding you back is your rotation. So your rotation is causing quite a lot of problems. So you're rotating through your shoulders and not through your hips. What we're seeing that as a problem is that you're not utilizing the power that you need in order to power underneath the water because you're not using your hips. You can generate propulsion just from having your arms up and wiggling from side to side. That will create propulsion all by itself. The second thing with your rotation not coming through your hips is you end up with the legs breaking out and creating resistance from side to side. Third thing with your rotation is you create a crossover across the back here and a very wide stroke, but you've been told to do it wide here. If you're not utilizing your hips, you're not using the right muscles to catch the water underneath the water either, because you've relied on your shoulders to turn and then turn you back again. Because we said that the elbow was coming into the body, not out. That's all because the hips are not taking over. I promise you it is. Second thing holding you back is a general tidying up of your catch and pull. So just focusing on getting that elbow up and keeping the elbow up so that you feel a lot more power through your stroke. And we use the term distance per stroke. Now, this is what I was going to talk to you about because a lot of coaches use this term distance per stroke. I want you to get as far as you can. I want you to go from A to B in as few strokes as possible because that means you're efficient. No, it doesn't. It means you're gliding. Distance per stroke is about how far I can go with each stroke, yes, but it's not about removing strokes. It's not about gliding and lengthening the stroke. It's really difficult to explain. You've got length per stroke, and you've got distance per stroke, and you've got stroke rate. Those three things are actually singular things, or they're completely different things.
What's the difference between length and distance?
Length per stroke is how long your arm actually physically in centimetres moves through the water. Stroke length. Distance per stroke is almost like a power meter, almost like FTP in bike form. Is how much power I put through that stroke and how far I can move forwards. It's exactly the same as FTP. And then you've got stroke rate, which is how fast the arms turn over. Mm. Your stroke rate will be completely different to mine because we're different heights. So my wingspan, my ape index is going to be completely different to yours. So ignore watches and ignore people that say, well, general rule of thumb. No, this is not about general rule of thumb. No. Okay. Stroke length is about literally how far my arm, like an ape index, will go from A to B.
So stroke length is just sort of the distance from my head to my fingertip.
And no, it's from your fingertip in a semicircle all the way back to your hip.
Back to there. But distance per stroke is how far I'm actually
traveling
moving
forwards
relative to the side of the pool.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to go back in time and kick whoever came up with that, but that's where we're at. So the first thing holding you back is rotation. The second thing holding you back is a general tidying up of your catch and pull. And the third thing holding you back is your stroke timing, is that you're in opposites at the moment and you need to have a constant propulsion in the water. If you can maintain a constant propulsion, I think your speed will come up almost instantly. And we're going to go through that now.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So there are some drills that you can do to help this. But for now, what I'll do is I'll send you those videos. Like you've got kicking on the side. So kicking on the side is when you bring your hip back. In fact, why don't I just show you? Drills. Why can I not? There we are. So kicking on the side is done with a pair of fins. You turn on your side, you want your hip and your shoulder to be level. Shoulder higher than the elbow, wrist and fingertips and keep it soft. You blow bubbles into your armpit and you tilt your head to the side to take a breath. All this does is help with rotation and getting the arm in the position.
When I've done that sort of exercise during drills, I don't like it. I find that what happens is I sink. So I sort of feel my arm sinks and I have to reach up to be able to breathe with my head and my legs sink low and I get into this really awkward position.
Okay, so I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark guess that where I've looked at your rotation, I wonder if you're trying to kick the water with your hips flat and then just turning your torso to the side, which is going to it's going to pull you downwards. We'd need to work on getting you fully kicking to the side. Again, it's unlocking the hip rotation.
How much should I be rotating my hips in an ideal stroke?
In a swim is 45 degrees, but I'm not about to get a protractor out and measure it. But it then needs to be a constant rolling through the hips. One, middle, all the time. All right, so that's one drill that would literally just help on hip stabilization and breathing. You've got 616. Now the 616 drill, loads of coaches just give it. The 616 drill is predominantly a breathing drill. It's designed to get you out of breath so that when you go back into your full rhythm, it makes the breathing feel easier. It works on hypoxia, right? And oxygen transfer. The second thing it does is it breaks down the stroke enough for you to make small changes. That's what this drill is for and nothing else. So 6 kicks, one arm and breathe to the side and start again. 6 kicks, one arm and breathe to the side. And you're meant to swim this at about 35-40% speed. Otherwise, you're just kicking a few times and bringing an arm over the water and once you've got the rhythm, we can start making slight different changes, whether it's we're going to think about the elbow recovery, we're going to think about where the hand position goes in, I'm going to think about my hips twisting. It gives you that time and space to make small changes. You should always do a drill swim. There is no point doing 4 lengths of drill and nothing. Drill swim, you do the drill, you put the feedback back into the stroke straight away. Okay, so 616. I'd like to see you get your bang for your buck. For me is on the drill, the catch drill. So skull number 1. Have you done this one before?
Yes, but I don't like it. It seems like I must be doing it wrong.
Yes.
It feels it doesn't work.
Okay, so I'm going to go through that in a sec. And I'm going to send you all these videos so that you can watch them at home as well. Skull number 2 is a really big one for you. Probably this and doggy paddle are the 2 ones that I would say if you want to focus on something to get faster and stronger, those are the ones. So skull number 2, instead of having your arms out in front, you're going to bring them to the side. You want your elbow to be level with your shoulder, so not coming behind you. Up, and then just lower the elbow slightly till you just feel that your shoulders release tension a little bit. And then same thing, wave out, wave in. Now this transfers into, as you pull the water, there's your skull number 2 position. So it's helping you get the elbow up and out rather than pulling that elbow into your body, which is what you were doing. So that's why this drill is so good. And the last one, doggy paddle. When we teach kids, doggy paddle is catch and pull, but it's with the elbows coming into the body. We don't like that. So doggy paddle drill is essentially just front crawl underneath the water. And I don't know why, and I should absolutely find someone that can peer review it for me. When you put your hands underneath the water, what you wouldn't do is go into that position that you showed me in your video, drop down, then pull. You won't do it. You will naturally bring the elbow up and get into a stronger catch position. So this is a bit of a do-all drill. It helps with general timing of the stroke. It helps with getting the shoulder higher than the elbow, wrist and fingertips. Catch and elbow up and distance per stroke. That's why this drill is such a strong drill. This is the one that I would say, Rob, this is your drill. This is the one that will make you better.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to stop the video because I want to go through those movements with you and I don't want to run out of time. Where's my window gone?